Welcome, everybody. You're listening to the Line Sports Talk Podcast. Saturday. Week 3 begins tomorrow. We already got through the Thursday night debacle that was Houston's visit to Foxborough. On the other line with me today, again, the agent of chaos himself, Bill Peeps. What's up, man?
Oh, man, I hate to tell everybody I told you so, but I will have to say it wasn't totally accurate because I did not expect that. And I got to ask a question out there for the Brock Osweiler believers. You're worth how much money, Brock?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, man. It just kind of seems like, we've talked about this before. Bad organizations make bad investments, and from what I've seen for Brock Osweiler, I don't think he's worth that kind of cheese.
Yeah, you know what? You're right, and sadly enough, they've done this. They've done this before with the likes of Jadeveon Clowney. I'm just still not impressed with him at all, and I don't think J.J. Watt's very impressed with either Clowney or Brock Osweiler. I think he had a realization when he was kneeling on the sidelines that we're not going anywhere with this quarterback and these other players. He really missed Brian Cushing as a middle linebacker. Whitney Merciless there in the middle used to be a good player. I don't think he is anymore. And in all fairness, you went into the Meadowlands. I broke one of my own cardinal rules. I've said it. You don't bet against Bill Belichick and the points. Period. You don't. You're giving Bill Belichick points. I don't know what the hell's wrong with me. Part of me just really wanted to see Houston break out and become a team that matters, and they're not. They're not going to be. They look like absolute hell. Belichick is the best head coach the NFL has ever seen. His game plan was perfect. He tailored everything to Jacoby Brissett's strengths, and which I thought Brissett played great. Great.
He didn't do anything to hurt him. That's for damn sure.
Oh, he was great. And when they got the ball rolling there in the second half, it was handed off to LB and just let him run people over, and he did just that. Houston's back was broken in the middle of the first half.
Mm-hmm. Kept it on the ground.
It looked like it was over for them early.
The Patriots just won. They kept it simple. They played great defense. They ran the football effectively, and that'll always usually be chances for you to be successful in a football game if you're able to control the ball. And that's what they've done. That's what they do. That defense is just so nasty. They force turnovers. They're all over you. Bill Belichick has great scheme, defensive schemes. It's really, you know what? It just makes me mad as a Jets fan because I've watched this team for years and years upon years, and I think the whole time, why can't my boys be like that? What makes them so great? Why is their organization from top to bottom so damn good? It actually makes my head spin. You've never witnessed anything like this in your lifetime in professional sports. I mean, maybe, the Chicago Bulls were as dominant as it got. Jordan was as dominant as it got. But I think basketball is a little bit different because it's a 5-man game, 6-man game, somebody off the bench. But basketball is a little bit different where you see teams that they've hit these dynasties a lot. And in the NFL, you just didn't see this really. Well, if you look at the Cowboys, the history of the NBA. Actually, I mean, it just poses. You look at the whole entire history of the NBA. You got dynasties and sports. You got the Lakers, the Celtics, the Pistons for a minute in the '90s, late '80s and '90s as the Bad Boys. You got
the Bulls,
and the Michael Jordan Bulls and the San Antonio Spurs. There's really not a balance of power in the NBA. It's just basically been dominated by a handful of franchises throughout the course. Yeah. Whereas in the NFL, it's more. I know you had dominant eras, like the Steelers were dominant in the 70s, the Niners dominated the 80s, Cowboys for the early part of the 90s. But for the most part, I mean, in football you have. Let me say this real quick. It seems like if we're comparing the NBA to whatever, and I just want to hurry before I forget this. The NBA, when some of these teams that aren't necessarily considered dynasties, they can be dominant. It seems like a team can be dominant for more than one season. And like that dominance carries over for a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever. Whereas in the NFL, you can be great one year and the next year not make the playoffs. It's happened with Tampa Bay Buccaneers, prime example.
Yeah. You can lose the Super Bowl, and that Super Bowl hangover, look, I know it's not a real thing, but it seems very common that maybe it's the hangover that teams experience after losing a Super Bowl may not be because they lost the Super Bowl. It's because they're losing players after that, because you get to the Super Bowl, you get to these pinnacles of the game after you've had players on your team for 4 years, 3 years. It uses up a good bulk of their contract, whatever the case might be. You lose it, you win it. The next year, you lose players. A lot of Denver Broncos. Case
in point, now that we're on this, how many times have you said, how hard is it been proven the only team, because this is what we're talking about, the only team who has done it recently are the New England Patriots. That's go back-to-back. It's very hard to do in the NFL. Where in the NBA, it happens throughout the history. It's happened quite a bit. Yeah,
sure does. Well, you've got New England just dominating, and that's what we're witnessing right now is just dominance from a coach, from a game planner. I think that Josh McDaniels should be one of the hotter commodities again in a couple of years. He's had the opportunity to go do it a little bit, make some mistakes on his own, and then come back to his teacher and become the greater coaching ninja. I keep watching Josh McDaniels and thinking he's going to learn everything he can from Belichick.
I'm sure, and what a teacher to have. Look at Belichick's. Although you got to one point though, look at Belichick's coaching tree. Not all of them have had success. Maybe it is a part just about that they're a product of that system. Because you look at Romeo Crennel, never had success as a head coach. You look at Charlie Weiss, never had success as a head coach, but they were dominant. Their defensive units were dominant in New England, and that's why they've catapulted from those positions to have jobs, but they haven't worked out. So you wonder yourself, is it just a product of that system?
It's more so the offensive coordinators have gone on to be a little bit more successful or been a little more successful, because you watch Romeo Crennel the other night. He struggled as a defensive coordinator ever since he left Belichick.
Mm-hmm.
He struggled. I can't recall a great defense he's put together. Maybe one or two. I know as a head coach in Cleveland. Now, granted, look, a lot of people are going to struggle in Cleveland.
Everybody, since they've come back, nobody. I mean, Cleveland is it's paradise lost right there. That's where your career goes to die.
It sure is. What we're witnessing is just so special, and I think that I'm not a Patriots fan. You're a Jets fan, so it might be harder on you. But for me, and just a sports fan in general, I'm really enjoying this.
Well, I'm not enjoying it by any means. I hate the Patriots, but I'm not biased either. I'm not one of those idiots that's going to sit out here and make an unintelligent argument saying, "Oh, they suck."
That's just wasted discussion.
I had a Patriots fan one time. And actually, this made me so angry, but not so much as the fact what he said, is just because of the accuracy of it, where he said, "You literally have nothing on a Jets-Patriots argument to me," is what he said to me. And it made me so mad because of the fact he was 100% correct, and there was nothing I could say or do about it. And there was no intelligent argument to be made on my behalf to come back at that, and that's what sucks.
Yeah, even depending on what the argument is right now, there's just nothing past, present, or near future. There's just you just don't have a side to look. Nobody has a side the last 15 years.
Yeah,
maybe Pittsburgh. They've put on some really great contests. The Indianapolis Colts put on some really great battles. I think New England long term definitely took.
I know it's a very young season, but you would have to figure at this juncture in Vegas. I mean, you put your money on it, it's almost a safe, not a safe bet. Anything can happen, but
really
the way it looks is New England and Pittsburgh are on a collision course, is what it looks like.
You're certainly off to the start you hoped you'd be off to.
Yeah, but like I said, anything can happen. I love the fact with the Steelers, I love that they get Le'Veon Bell back. That's huge. Hopefully, but and then the Patriots, who do they get back? I think Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback ever, is who they're going to eventually get back. And you wonder the way the Patriots looked. You wonder if they're with Tom Brady back. You make an argument that they might. I mean, what game do you pick them to lose with Brady back if they're playing this well without him, without Gronk, without Nate Solder, without Rob Ninkovich, one of their best players on defense?
They could possibly. There's potential that they could lose some just arbitrary road game. I'd have to look ahead at the schedule and see, but probably a trip to Miami won't treat them well one day, or something silly.
It tends to be that way. But what game do you think, if you're an odds maker, what game with the way they've looked early in the season with Tom Brady and Gronk back? What game would you favor them to? Would you favor the other team if you're an odds maker? Probably none. They're going to be. I know they've for the first time in years they've been getting points because of the circumstances. But now that they get all those puzzle pieces back,
And still
I mean,
getting points.
I don't think. Yeah, I mean, what game would you favor? I don't think they're gonna. I think the odds makers are gonna learn their lesson. I don't think the Patriots are gonna be getting points ever again.
No, probably not. But, we discussed it the other night, and for anybody who didn't hear the Thursday night pregame episode, I was all over Houston just on this. That's just what it looked like to me, that there was the luck was going to run out. I'm an idiot. Forget it. I have no defense.
I can't. And normally I'd be the first one to call you out on that, but I can tell you this: I can't this time because you took a position that was pretty popular, and a lot of logical thinking says, okay, the Patriots have a third-string quarterback, a kid who probably never expected to play in his wildest dreams when he got drafted by the Patriots. Maybe he's not prepared. Yeah. But then you think about it.
I thought that it wasn't enough time on a 3-day work week.
And we were under the impersonation that Houston was maybe a decent team.
I thought that was a better football team. Houston is not a good football team at all.
No, they mustn't. Obviously, they showed that. And Brock Osweiler's terribly overpaid. Houston panicked because they thought they needed a franchise quarterback after the abysmal performance that Brian Hoyer put on the playoffs last year. They panicked, and they went out and saw it. They thought they had their guy, and look what they got. They overpaid. And
they forced him to
now you're stuck with him. At least with Brian Hoyer, you could cut bait with literally no consequence, but now you're stuck with this guy. You paid him too much money.
Yeah, they blew it. Here, I pulled up New England's schedule, and then we're going to get on to a couple other things here, but it's a fun conversation. Next week, they are actually at home against Buffalo, which, division game. Buffalo, desperate as can be. We're going to get into our picks here in a few minutes, too.
I don't really care about. I know we are, but adding on that, I don't care how desperate Buffalo is. I think they've lost faith, and I think they're starting to not believe in Rex's chatter and bullshit anymore.
Rex won't make it to week 8, but we'll get to that in a second. But I got a position on that. I really do. Then they're at Cleveland week 5. We know all about that one. That one's the game Brady's back. I do think it's very important for them to get Jimmy Garoppolo healthy, though. It is, because now Jacoby Brissett's got a sprained thumb, and they're saying he could miss some time if he has to have the surgery. But week 5, they're at Cleveland. So let's say, potentially.
Why? I think it's important for them to get Garoppolo healthy. Why? I mean, if they lose this game with a 3-1, Brady comes back, they end up going 15-1.
Well,
so I mean, I don't see any urgency whatsoever on the New England Patriots in any manner.
Yeah, you got to keep Brady healthy when he comes back, and that's why you got to keep Garoppolo healthy, because I do believe that if they were to lose Brady, they'd have no Garoppolo, no Brissett, then they're in trouble, because you still need somebody to take snaps, and it's not going to be Julian Edelman, and this team is so good that they have this is a great opportunity for them to win another championship, so you've got to protect Brady, you've got to make sure Garoppolo is healthy in the background. I just think it's a priority. You got to keep it intact.
I don't know. Like, I agree with. I mean, you make good points there, but it's like, shit. They could make a raffle and have one of the fans come up from the stands and put them behind under center. It looks like they might win. So.
Yeah. No, it's comical, but I get it.
They could have
week 5.
They got Chip fucking O'Leary from fucking Dorchester out there.
Hey, Chip, don't come back here. The Bengals, and by the way, I just got caught up on that show. We'll talk after this show tonight. They have Cincinnati at home, then they travel to Pittsburgh, travel back to Buffalo. This is potentially the Pittsburgh game at Pittsburgh should be a rough and tumble battle. The Cincinnati game in New England could very well be a good one. They're not going to be an underdog for the Cincinnati game, but the Pittsburgh game, don't laugh if Brady maybe has a bad start in between Cleveland and Cincinnati, and then Pittsburgh is the home favorite at 3.5. So you might see New England as the dog there on the road. Week 10. They are at home against Seattle. I got my own opinion about Seattle we're going to get into in a second. They start slow. Then they travel to San Francisco. That's not a game that I think they're going to go out to the Field of Jeans and lose. They have the Jets at home, the Rams, Ravens. They're at Denver week 15. There's your loser potentially. And then week 7.
That schedule does sound like a meat grinder of sorts.
It is. I mean, it's not easy.